Set in an apocalyptic world, the story unfolds. In a world where a towering orc is targeting our frightened protagonist, who can't accept that he's going to die like this. Trying to run, he headed for every place his eyes found safe, even though he knows that will get him caught. That thing, the high orc taunts him for a while, then snaps the last thread of our boy's hope for survival. 3 days before the world turned to chaos, everything was about to change. Things were normal, and our guy Kyudo Kazuto was working at his exploitative company for. It's been 3 years now, after finishing another late shift that ended 2 hours earlier than his usual over. When the time shift ended, Kyudo was exhausted and just wanted to go back home. And a chance to rest, so he's a little happy today because he has a rare day off tomorrow. He plans to spend it reading the novel he's been reading for a while. Even now on the road, he is happy despite all the problems in his life, but that is exactly what makes him drive a bit see. Suddenly his car hit something. Kyudo was terrified. He got out of the car to check and discovered he had accidentally killed an animal that looked like a dog. It's a bit too massive. Shaken, Kyudo is flustered by the animal's dying sounds and begins apologizing and feeling guilty about its death. Kyudo knows an apology will mean nothing to the creature at this point. At that point, he just closes his eyes, accepting what he did, sighing sadly at the creatures. After dying, he suddenly gets a notification that he earned experience points. Now raised to level 1, Kyudo became the first to register a kill in the Chaos Frontier, earning a subjugation perk and early bonus skill development, and he wonders where the voice is coming from since it sounds like a game announcement, and when he looks down. As he looks around, Kyudo notices the animal's body is gone and wonders if he's hallucinating. He then notices a stone on the ground and finds himself thinking of it as a drop. Realistically, he finds it silly to compare real life to a game and feels he must rest immediately. He immediately gets into the car and heads back. The next morning at home, he would learn it was not a hallucination and would later accept this undeniable reality. The next morning, Kyudo wakes up still tired and realizes he slept so long it's now afternoon. Loud noises and sirens come from outside, but he ignores them and tries to turn on the light, which stays off as if the breaker has blown, leaving him wondering what's happening. Thinking it's a power outage, he decides to eat first and makes do with warm milk and whatever else he has. After grabbing something from the fridge, he reflexively switches on the TV, but the power is out so it won't work, and he also forgot to charge his phone and laptop. Kyudo figures the only thing left is to read some light novels. He'd bought it and never read it, so he opened the curtains for some light, and the plot twist was right in front of him. The neighborhood streets were filled with chaos, giant trees and monsters everywhere, and Kyudo thinks the creature ahead is an orc, but can hardly believe it's real since he finds no zipper or seam to mark a costume, and it looks far too real, and when he examines its hand, he has to cover his mouth to keep from vomiting. He couldn't believe it because the monster was carrying a dead human's head and tried to deny it, fumbling to turn on the TV to check the news. Power is still out, and his phone won't work. Either way, Kyudo pinched himself to focus and went to the window to calmly observe the current situation. Mind, he can feel that the world has changed for. It was real, and now monsters are everywhere killing you. Humans, Kyudo remembered whether if it's real, that means what he killed yesterday wasn't an animal but a monster. He had the idea to try the open stats command, and it opened a window showing his stats and abilities. Kyudo knows this is exactly like a game, and the first thing he must do is to check what JPSP means and why he has a unique ability. It just came to him as the subjugation perk. Now he clicks on everything to check after being asked to choose a job from the list, which includes citizen, adventurer, clerk, negotiator, shut-in, monk, and spy. Kyudo was surprised to see shut-in listed as a job, and he thought becoming an ascetic monk could be an option since years as a corporate slave had worn down his spirit. As for the spy, Kyudo thinks that could be an option, since he once had to snitch on his coworkers to his boss. For a moment, he weighed the perks of each job and which to pick. He ultimately chose spy, and was then asked to spend the job points he'd earned earlier, the JP. Now his job is set to spy. He learned job-specific skills like sneaking, observation, listening, and covert action. To level spy up quickly, he spent all 10 job points to reach level 4, boosting his job skills and other stats. The system told him he can now also acquire multiple skills with skill points available. Kyudo checked the list of skills he could buy. Many resistance skills were for sale, and he wondered if it was because he'd tolerated it. Thinking it through, he first gained hostility detection and danger detection skills because monsters were everywhere, then allotted the remaining points to combat-related skills and finished. Kyudo's stats were perfect for a spy needing to survive in a monster world, and he added crucial skills like item box, fear, and stress resistance. To test his skills, he lifted the fridge with his physical enhancement skills, and it did not feel heavy. After checking his physical stats, Kyudo looked out the window at the monsters again, and because he now had resistance to stress and fear, he was less afraid than the first time. These should help him keep his mind steady during his fights against Moan. Kyudo began testing his item box by trying to put it on a pin, and once you got a C. Turning to it, he decided to see how much he could fit into the item box. Against expectations, he managed to store every item from his room. It's impressive given the item box is still level 1. The system created a list of everything he stored, so he won't have to worry about forgetting what's inside. Testing storing hot water showed it would not be preserved, so the item box does not have many storage functions yet, though he may gain more as his level increases. With pressure rising, Kyudo decides it's time to head out because he ultimately needs to secure. He kept food in the kitchen just in case. He steeled himself as he stepped out of his room. Kyudo looked left and right for monsters nearby, but it seems to be okay here, and to make sure he won't be caught off guard, he keeps his danger detection, hostility detection, and covert action skills sharp. Kyudo moved through the other rooms, knocking on each door to check if anyone was there. He got no answer when he knocked on the doors, so they either ran away or someone died. Kyudo may have been left behind because he overslept, and he finds it odd that he slept so deeply while the world was falling apart. He could not help it because he was exhausted from work and had no parents to wake him. Kyudo checked more rooms and still didn't find anyone, so he kept going farther down the stairs, moving quietly on tiptoe. After a while, Kyudo found an open door and checked to see if anyone was inside, but as he got closer, a bad feeling pulsed through his head. He realized it was his hostility detection skill, reacting to a hostile creature. Kyudo was suddenly attacked by a goblin in the room, but he somehow managed to block it and push the goblin back. He drew back and readied himself for his first direct battle against Amont. Master, he knows he's barely holding the fear at bay with his skill, otherwise he would have lost control by now. The goblin looked ready to attack at any moment. Kyudo stayed alert because he knew a single moment of hesitation would cost him his life. Facing death, he found the right moment to make a run. As a result, even the goblin was stunned by his cow. Enraged, the goblin began chasing. But our boy was ready for that and pulled the washing machine out from the eye. Enter text in the box above the goblet. The machine caught the goblin off guard and trampled him. Kyudo managed. Only one thing remained to finish the job, and he steeled himself because the goblin had come after him. Then cut through its neck and kill it. When the goblin died, it vanished and dropped a manstone, and Kyudo gained experience, rising from level 1 to 2. He got down on the ground. He takes a breath because he's still not used to killing a living creature and doesn't think he can get used to it, but it's necessary for survival now, and he confirmed the monsters leave mana stones behind like drops, yet for some reason the goblin's blood didn't vanish with its body and left a stain on the washing mat. Machine Kudos stored it back in the. Opening the box, he checked his stats after just leveling up. Kudo's stats increased after the level up, and he also received more job and skill points. He thinks it's better to use. He raised his job level to 5 and learned the job skill hostility detection, and since he already had it, the duplicate merged and leveled his main skill up to 2. Now for the rest of his. To improve his skills, Kyudo decided to spend skill points based on the battle he had just fought. After assigning his skill points, he climbed down to the first floor and realized leveling up had erased his presence so completely that he could not sense it. Suddenly he sensed monsters and saw 4 goblins closing in around the. At the corner, one of them seemed to be coming his way. Kyudo thought about running at first, but then he realized this might be. This was his big chance to get used to this world and raise his level at the same time. He killed the first goblin silently by covering its mouth and stabbing it straight in the F. After killing the heart, Kyudo gained experience points, and his stress resistance rose from level 1 to 2, reducing his anxiety and guilt. There was no time to think, since the other goblins spotted him and started char. Kyudo ran down another hallway while planning how to defeat them. Using an item box, he pulled out a wheeled fridge to block the goblin's path. Now his physical attributes came into play. Push the refrigerator all the way back to crush those goblins by force. He managed to defeat the goblins that way, but they still seemed to be. Kyudo quickly finished the still-living enemies, gained more experience, and jumped straight from level 2 to level 4 after killing these go. He can tell this is rapid growth, probably due to his unique skill in early development. Kyudo suddenly sensed a presence behind him, but felt no hostility or danger. Still, he could sense a beast nearby. On the stairs, Kyudo wondered whether that thing was a monster, but as the silhouette approached, having coached him, Kyudo realized the shadow belonged to none other than Mo. Cute Shiba Inu named Kyudo ran to Momo and cuddled Momo right away, relieved to see Momo had been safe the whole time. After the happy reunion, Kyudo remembers that Momo is a stray dog who lives in this neighborhood. He sometimes fed her in secret, since pets weren't allowed in his ob. Although Momo is a stray dog, Kyudo loves her as much as he loves novels, and cuddling her soothes him. He figured she was worthless. Hungry, Kyudo quickly took some dog food out of the item box for her. Momo finished all the dog food quickly, and Kyudo felt refreshed and reassured he was not alone. Then he asked if she wanted more to eat. Then Kyudo got a notification that Momo was looking at him as if she wanted to be friends, and he had to decide whether to be friends with her. Kyudo was confused by the announcement and wondered when this world had started using such a system. The same announcement reached him again, proving he hadn't just imagined it, and if it was true, he would gladly accept it and befriend Mo. Momo has joined his party and is already at level 2. That means she may have succeeded in killing him. Kyudo didn't think a cute dog could kill a monster, so we went. An idea came to her, and she took out a goblin's magic stone to ask her if she'd seen one somewhere. Momo looked at the stone with delighted eyes that were impossible to ignore, and Kyudo moved it around to make sure she was watching and understood him. She became upset by the repeated tro. Relenting to her cute face, he sat idly beside her. Momo sniffed the magic stone and suddenly ate it like it was toffee. Kyudo told her she can't simply eat stuff like that, but she had already swallowed it and looked at him like she wanted more of those. After Kyudo realized she could eat these magic stones, he tried to eat them himself but failed. He remembered the purple magic stone he had received from the first kill, so he brought it out and Momo stared at it as if she wanted it very much. Unfortunately, he fed the purple stone to her, and Momo suddenly seemed affected, circling around and looking a bit flustered, but she calmed down soon enough, and after he made sure she seemed fine, he checked his stats. With 42 skill points and 25 job points, Kyudo first spent job points continuously to raise his spy level straight to level. Next, he spent skill points to learn swordsmanship and concealment, which will help him a lot. He raised the item box skill to level 6. Now he can take out multiple items at once. With the increased storage capacity, Kyudo decided to keep anything useful he came across. After that, he tried an item box and discovered he can withdraw and deposit items up to 5 meters away. He cannot retrieve items that are inside other containers, such as water in a bottle, and he thinks that will be fixed as he levels up. Heading to the parking lot to get his car, he finds it wrecked like everything from the war. He still hadn't paid off the loans on it, so he put it in the item box and it worked, but the box labeled it a broken-down car, which made him want to cry. Ask Momo if she wants to tag along while he checks out the convenience store. Momo agreed positively. Kyudo was worried it would be safer for her to stay somewhere secure while he went alone and brought the items back, taking the risk himself, but for some reason he felt it would be better to take her along, so he started walking toward the convenience store. Or with her. A few minutes later, he realized his hunch was right. Walking past the sickening sight of humans and animals lying dead with crows feeding on them, Kyudo feels bad for those who died needlessly, but must keep moving when his hostility detector reacts, and he tells Momo to stay. Kyudo spotted a zombie coming toward him. At first he thought of crushing it with the washing machine, but he realized that would make them stand out too much and attract other monsters. Deciding to use a weight he'd kept in an item box, he waited quietly until the zombie passed, and when he saw his. By chance, Kyudo moved in with the weight and was about to crush the zombie's head. At the last moment, the zombie turned and seemed to notice him, catching him off guard. Kyudo was caught off guard and couldn't react in time, and he knows he can't dodge at this distance, so the zombie might bite him. A shadowy black thing strangled the goblin, and Kyudo saw the zombie's movements were S. Stuck, Kyudo could tell something wasn't normal here, so he wondered what it meant, and he didn't recall having any skill like that. Either way, he heard Momo's voice as she stepped up and stood beside Kyudo. He knew it wasn't safe, so he acted despite whatever had happened. Seeing his chance, he smashed the zombie's head with a weight and killed it. He gained experience, and a zombie's magic stone dropped, which he fed to Momo. He asked Momo if she had been the one who just saved him. When she agreed, he somehow understood her words. Kyudo learned that Momo could manipulate shadows. It probably came from the Shadow Wolf's magic stone he gave her earlier. After confirming Momo could learn skills too, Kyudo encouraged her. She wondered whether she could gain more skills if he kept feeding her magic stones. In the zones, he asked Momo to show him that skill again, and she used her shadow manipulation. She could only control her own shadow in Kyudo's, and the shadow had a range of about 10. Kyudo realizes Momo's skill complements his own each is a spy, and together they'd make a magnificent duo. Without delay, they headed back to the convenience store, and this time Kyudo killed goblins much more easily thanks to Momo's skill, but he still did not level up and needed more experience to reach the next level. They arrived at the convenience on time. Kyudo was surprised to find so much left in the store, since people would have grabbed all the supplies before fleeing. Momo, the premium dog, picked something up for herself first, and he noticed. They could choose any food, so he let her have it, and it was cute to watch her enjoy it. Next, he stored all the items from the store in his item box. With that much canned food, he could survive for half a year. His work here was done, so Kyudo wanted to find a safe place to sleep before sunset. Before leaving, he spotted something on a distant rooftop and looked through his binoculars, and realized it was an SOS message. He wondered if there were any survivors, since he had not seen another living person since the world became like this. He was unsure what to do next, weighing meeting them against moving forward with caution, because the shopping mall could be dangerous. After Momo agreed to come along, he decided to check out a shopping mall about 15 minutes from. Here on the way, he killed a couple of monsters and reached level 5. He received 5 points and used them immediately to raise his job level to 9, noticing that the job's-specific skills rose 1 level for every 3 job levels. For the rest, he allocated skill points to physical enhancement, item box, sword fighting, and con. Salient. Next, he walked. Moving on, he found a useful weapon that could prove handy later, so they put it away and continued shopping. At the mall, he heard the sounds of fighting, which meant someone was battling monsters. Kyudo can't approach carelessly, so he used a concealment skill to hide his and Momo's presence. After a bit of testing, he learned that concealment can be used in various ways, and that hiding is. Noticing the presence, he went in to find out what was going on inside. Kyudo saw cars parked in a circle around a spot, and in the middle some men were fighting orcs with crowbars and anything else they could find. The SOS made it clear they planned to hold out here until help arrived, so he figured they had no choice but to fight when orcs broke the barricades. Kyudo saw the orcs were huge and far stronger than the humans, and he knew they would kill them soon. At the back, he spotted the orc leader, who had a different presence and color from the others and seemed lacking. Kyudo suspects it's a higher-ranking orc, and his danger sense surges when he looks at it. Kyudo considers helping them because he believes he could do well in a fight using Momo's skills and item box. Nothing guarantees his safety, and the chance he could die is high. He still does not know how strong the orcs really are, and he sees no point in sticking his neck out here. Even after he earns and stores experience points, the challenges ahead will be even worse. He's sure those guys will want to rely on him later, so they'll do whatever keeps them safe, and along the way they'll probably ask about the item box, and when they learn he got food they'll ask him to share it. Under the guise of doing the right thing, they would make him do their chores and fight their battles while they ate and lived off him, and this would cause problems for Momo later. He knows he will not be able to say no, because as a former corporate slave, he cannot refuse and will end up wasting away serving strangers he cannot turn down. No, it all sounds like a hassle. Kyudo thinks he's a jerk for hesitating to save others out of selfishness, but he's not sure that's wrong because whoever you are in this world, your own life comes first, and there's nothing wrong with that. While those guys were fighting for Kyudo decided to run away after all and save himself. Momo, by contrast, seemed determined to save them. Kyudo admits she's always selfless and a great decision-maker, and he makes his choice because of her. He tells Momo that when he drops his concealment, she should run to distract them while he saves those guys, but he suddenly senses a danger more intense than anything he's ever felt. Earlier, Kyudo felt uneasy about this and quickly asked Momo to wrap her shadow around his entire body. Kyudo's reflexes proved correct when the high orc unleashed a scream so powerful it shook the ground, smashed the building's windows, and reduced the whole area to ruins. Kyudo realized one thing: that thing was the real D. Checking on Momo, he found she was okay, and fortunately they made it safely thanks to his quick decision. Kyudo still can't quite grasp what that is. That scream was clearly a skill capable of destroying a large area. Even that did not shock him, because what he saw next were the dead bodies of those people who had been alive and fighting just moments before. They were all dead, with no chance to fight back against that scree. A high orc sent his forward. Lackeys swarmed the shopping mall, using the human corpses as food. Meanwhile, the high orc glared into the distance, radiating a powerful aura. The direction led straight to where our boy sat with Constant. Kyudo's doomed if that thing has actually noticed him. It's hard to grasp how dangerous it is because it detected him from more than 10 meters away despite his concealment skill. Worse, it smiled, which meant trouble for Kyudo, and he trembled with fear because he suspected it had seen him. Fear and stress spiked so much that even his resistance skill rose along with stress and fear to level 4 in one shot, and Kyudo put all his remaining job points into raising his job level, which let him acquire escape skills and defensive. Kyudo knew he couldn't stay here even for a second because that thing had probably seen him. Unexpectedly, the high orc glanced back at the shopping mall. Kyudo saw this as his only chance to escape and ran with all his strength with his life on the line. Luckily, that thing didn't seem to be coming after him and stayed back at the shopping mall. Kyudo had a very close brush with death, and now he has to find a place right away where the high orc's eyes cannot reach him, so he kept running, never satisfied with the distance and pushing even farther. Moreover, he felt he absolutely did not want to die no matter what. He decided he and Momo needed to become even stronger to survive against Beastly. Kyudo reflexively ran all the way back to his apartment because he'd cleared the place of monsters and it was safer, and he had a hard time catching his breath. Gasping for breath, he drank a whole bottle of water, desperate because he could really have died in that SP. Kyudo realized he'd gotten carried away after gaining levels and thinking he could save those guys, and that was careless. He ended up putting both his life and Momo's in danger. Kyudo felt beat up and tense, and his stress resistance increased. Once he calmed down, he lay on the floor and Momo moved closer to him, as if to come nearer. To comfort him, Kyudo figures she must be tired too, so he pulled many items out of his. They use item boxes to build a barricade around themselves before they sleep. After he finished, he fell asleep with Momo curled around his arm. With that, their first day in the apocalyptic world was over. The next morning, Kyudo was woken by Momo, and he scanned the area first to make sure they were not surrounded by monsters. Taking food out of the item box, he said, "Inform Momo they will start actively hunting monsters today." Momo looked at him as he said they need to level up to survive, but they must be careful when hunting monsters and put their safety above everything else. If they died, everything would be for nothing, so he asked Momo to team up with him to survive in this world. Momo always stayed by his side. With that settled, Kyudo checked his stats to decide where to start. His skills have leveled up He's been gaining more skills and discovers he unlocks new ones after meeting set requirements, so using his skills lets them level up without spending skill points. Kyudo decides to learn as many skills as possible, so he spends skill points to get poison resistance and automatic health recovery. He saw Momo try to do something on her own, but nothing happened except her lifting her. When Kyudo asked if she had picked up a skill, she agreed, and he wanted to see what kind it was. Momo began running around him and jumping. She answered randomly, which didn't explain much, and he still didn't understand what she meant. Later, Kyudo set out wondering whether that high orc was still around. He can't just sit around and needs to level up fast, so he chose to go the opposite way from the shopping mall. Along the way, Kyudo came across more corpses and wondered what the government and self-defense force were doing right now. He wished he could follow the news on TV or online. Momo alerted him, and he spotted a goblin up ahead. He told her to start the attack with Shadowman. Kyudo followed with an attack that ended it quickly. He defeated a couple more goblins after that, but he still didn't level up. Aside from that, Kyudo found more people taking refuge in a building that seemed to have fewer monsters or so. Around him, he figured if help arrived they might make it through by staying put, but the town was already being overrun with monsters that were actively hunting down monsters, so the chances were slim. He wondered if things would be different if he chose shut-in as his job, but he knew he would never pick that kind of meme job. Killing more goblins pushed him from level 6 to 7, and he immediately spent the job points to become a spy, raising his spy skill to the maximum level 10. Kyudo received an announcement that he could now choose both a specialized job and a secondary job from a list, with specialized options like assassin, covert operative, and thief, and secondary options like informant, hunter, looter, and beastmaster, giving him more opportunities to explore. First, he found a safe place to think clearly. Kyudo can upgrade his job to one of those three options. He hoped to find something that would earn him approval to carry on, and he also had to take a second job elsewhere. Kyudo had to choose the best combination for survival, so he thought it through carefully. Upgrading the spy to assassin, he acquired night vision, vital strike, presence eraser, and judgment jamming, with some previous skills merging into these higher ones, and then picked hunters as his secondary job, which granted enemy scanning, distant sight, agility enhancement, and dexterity enhancement, and with the hardest part done, he just allocated skill points according to. His solid skill set became more tangible than ever. Never, the new skills dramatically changed his stats, and his movements made no sound. With his long-range vision, he can see far without binoculars, and his scan skill lets him sense Momo's presence. Kyudo has finished his preparations, and now it's time for. After lunch, Kyudo and Momo went to explore further, and when they reached a building, Kyudo's enemy scan, hostility detection, and danger detection all activated. That means monsters lie ahead. Using long-range vision, he inspected the building from a distance. He could see about 4 goblins. Then he saw there was one more. This one appears to be a higher goblin or hob. Goblin, he considers staying wary of that one too, but since his danger sense didn't react as strongly as it did to the high orcs, he thinks he can handle it, and Kyudo asks Momo if she's coming along, and as always Momo is ready to go with him anywhere. Kyudo used to scan that supermarket for enemies. Building and spotted the goblins scattered around it. Area 1 was close to the register, 2 by the meat counter, and 4 more with that hobgoblin by the pro. That means 8 goblins in total, by far the most enemies he's faced so far. He must clear this hurdle today or tomorrow, so Kyudo mustered the courage to fight. Kyudo knew fighting them would be easier with a companion besides Momo who could handle short mid-range encounters, but he'd have to make do for now, so he told Momo he'd throw rocks to distract them so they could enter the shop and asked her to stay safe in his shadow. Momo slipped into his shadow, and seeing it again reminded him of when he discovered Momo's new skill of hiding in someone else's shadow. They can still talk while she is in shadow, but to use the skill in combat, Momo must first enter his shadow. Only then can she travel to any shadow that touches Kyudo's she. Kyudo edged to the side of the entrance and froze when his danger sense briefly reacted, but it faded, so he told himself it was just his imagination and kept his guard up. Kyudo threw the rocks in another direction to draw the goblin away, and while it was distracted. Stepping into the shop, he planned to take out the 2 goblins by the meat counter first. Once he got close, Momo used her ability to paralyze them and keep them from making any noise. After finishing the job quietly and earning experience, Kyudo checked on the 4 goblins and the hobgoblin, and they still had not noticed their friends were dead. So when one goblin wandered off alone, Kyudo targeted and killed it silently, and now only 4 goblins and that hobgoblin remain. The goblin at the entrance shouted, alerting the others, so they went on guard and more goblins gathered outside the shop, making it harder for Kyudo. The shop goblins suddenly attacked the ones outside, so they aren't on the same side. Bob Goblin stepped outside to deal with the people there. The hobgoblin stood his ground and screamed. It was loud and seemed to be another scream skill that damages nearby areas. In those areas, Kyudo could tell it was different from high orcs, as that one was more distraught. The hobgoblin's scream drove the outsider goblins off, so Kyudo can now make his move. Opening the item box, he chose to store only the shelves this time. That caught the goblins off guard, but they still saw him out in the open. While they were still surprised, Kyudo set up the same shelves to keep the goblins separated from the hobgoblin for a while. He asked Momo to handle the goblin at the entrance. Kyudo picked off the goblins in front one by one with the knife. The knife's gone, only the hobgoblin is left. It broke through the barricade and is about to attack. Kyudo didn't want to fight it directly, so he threw something at it. The hobgoblin tried to catch it, but it was a balloon that splashed liquid into its eyes. It squealed in pain and clutched its eyes, and Kyudo was glad his water balloons filled with Tabasco sauce worked. He prepared them during his strategy meeting with Momo, and he knows that tobacco in monsters' eyes can be exceptionally painful. This was a perfect chance to strike it out. This time Kyudo casually threw an entire vending machine at the monster, crushing the hobgoblin beneath it. But to be sure, Kyudo did it again, splattering the hobgoblin's blood everywhere, and it still seemed to be alive afterward. Momo then used her shadow to strangle the goblin until it was nearly dead. Kyudo thanked her for the help, and she appears to have defeated the goblin at the entrance on her own. Now Kyudo smashes the hobgoblin again with a vending machine. He gained enough experience from defeating it to rise from level 6 to 7. Kyudo is thrilled after winning a tough battle with his own strategy and celebrates with Momo because they can grow stronger together. Meanwhile, a girl who seemed to be watching him through a sniper scope can't believe he took out so many goblins on his own. She has no doubt he's an important person, and before she entered the shop, he had already noticed her watching him from a distance. Her hand trembled with hope now that there was really someone other than her who is actively hunting down the monsters. Back to Kyudo, he's exhausted after fighting so many monsters at once. Once Momo came to cheer him up and helped him feel refreshed by letting him touch her fur. After that, he stood back up and noticed she still wanted more pets. From him, now he pictured a rough map in his head to decide his next place too. During the visit, Kyudo still had room to improve, and this time his teamwork with Momo saved the day, along with that Tabasco filled. He got great results here and proved small tools can work on monsters, so now he plans to visit the hardware store and drugstore to stock up on supplies, confident he will find materials to build something more powerful. Powerful, yet his biggest challenge right now is himself. Not yet used to his increased stats, moving in critical situations feels like his own body is working against him. He managed it this time, but that doesn't guarantee it won't put his life and future at risk. There is no room for carelessness, since every move could cost him everything. Kyudo assigned the skill points and job points he received. This time he focused on upgrading the item boxes to level 9. He fed the magic stones to Momo as you. Kyudo, as always, stored everything from the super. They left the market and decided to move on to their next location. Momo hid in his shadow. Dressed to move more freely, he headed to the hardware store and remembered his aim to stock up on living necessities while hunting monsters. At that moment, he heard the roar of strong winds. Then a large helicopter from the self-defense force passed overhead, and Kyudo wondered where it was headed. After watching it for a moment, he realized the helicopter was heading toward the shopping mall. Kudos is scared because those guys don't seem to know what's there, and his danger detection still tells him to stay away from that air. Torn between staying away and risking his life again, he finds hope in the exceptional strength of Japan's self-defense forces. He heard they're among the world's best at close combat, and they will have weapons far better than vending machines or washing machines. They would be much tougher than him right now. Kyudo is struggling to decide what to do now. Deciding to watch from afar with his distance sight skill, he removed the danger of getting close. From a tall building, there were no danger reactions either, so it should be safer. He guided Momo back into the shadows. He then walked toward the building, but on the way, unexpectedly, Kyudo sensed many people. Apparently, they are all running toward the shopping mall because they saw a helicopter heading that way. People panicked and left their belongings behind as they ran to safety. Kyudo can tell these people were holed up until the helicopter arrived, and he knows how they must be feeling now. Kyudo went straight to the building, scanned the entrance, and entered. Finding no one inside, he climbed to the top floor and found the roof door unlocked. After carefully inspecting the rooftop, he couldn't find anyone here. Satisfied it was safe, he called out. Momo, at the same time, the Japanese self-defense force landed at the shopping mall. There were about 5 soldiers. Kyudo admires that they keep doing their job in an apocalyptic world and look strong with those guns. Kyudo figures that if he can gain experience by running monsters over with a car, guns should count too. They are also grouped into proper, long, and close combat. Members Momo barked as if something wrong was about to happen. Meanwhile, the soldiers saw an orc step out of the shopping mall. It hasn't sensed the self-defense force yet, and that will cause its death because they were ready with their guns. Self-defense forces opened fire when they saw the monster, peppering its entire body with bullets. The orc died without a. There is a fight and Kyudo is a M. I am amazed at how one-sided they are. He knew guns would be game-breaking in times like that. As more orcs came out, more were killed by the self-defense force. Kyudo thinks the orcs must have a skill that warns them before an enemy appears and where it will come from. If they have one skill, they must have many others like him. Kyudo believes they must have a lot of information about this changed world, and with those weapons and co. With the nation's support, they might be able to win. Without warning, the high orc used its scream skill, and Kyudo quickly covered Momo and himself with her shadow before the shockwaves hit. After it ended, he confirmed Momo was okay, and the scream had no effect at that distance. Kyudo knows this scream must be from that age. York rushed to check on the self-defense force. They were still alive and had somehow survived that scream but seemed to be panicking about something. The bigger problem was that Kyudo could not tell where the high orc was. The helicopter suddenly burst into flames before his eyes, surprising everyone. Shock from the spot where the helicopter had been, the high orc comes out with the helicopter driver's corpse in his head. Kyudo can't believe that thing broke the helicopter by jumping on top of it and acting so wildly. Using that strength, the high orc threw the driver's body at the other soldiers, and one of them was slammed into the wall by the impact. With two of them down without a fight, the others quickly began firing at the hot. It was useless in York because the high York did not budge even for the bull. Bullets hit it, but it still charged the soldiers and killed another soldier, and the one who seemed to be the leader was killed by it like a bug. They left the last soldier, who clearly knew he would not survive. The high orc demonstrated afterward. Calling it killing them is too strong. Meanwhile, other people who ran in hoping to be saved arrived only to be ambushed by orcs and die at their hands. Kyudo cannot bear this awful sight, and the fact that even the skilled self-defense force was wiped out suggests there are probably even stronger monsters in other towns, like dragons or phoenixes. Deep down, he hoped someone would deal with the situation, even if those guys were white. In the end, Kyudo can only rely on himself. He has sobered up and told Momo they need to move on. To become much stronger than he is now, he planned to head to the hardware store in the opposite direction and check things out. Out there after you. On the left, the girl from before, who had actually been sitting on the roof the whole time, came out and wished he had stayed a little longer. If he had, he might have noticed her. Still, she should have spoken up, but she couldn't because talking to a stranger was a hard hurdle to overcome. When Kyudo arrived at the hardware store, the first thing he saw was more people fighting over it. They told the people who had just arrived to go elsewhere because those already here did not want any more people. Then someone came out and asked them what all this racket was. They called him Nishio. Nishino seemed to be their leader, with a girl beside him, while Kyudo watched the group's hierarchy from a distance and he learned what was happening. And made it clear to those guys that they could not just let them in at this point. Time but may allow it under certain conditions, the conditions for taking pee. It made Kyudo wonder if it was like being a cute girl or something. Nishino didn't seem like a pervert, since he only accepted people who had experience killing monsters. His terms frightened the strangers, and Nishino said that if anyone kills even one monster, they will accept. They seemed afraid to fight, and they called him crazy for forcing them to fight those Nishino explained that people can pick up items and swing weapons like the girl in the back, and that killing monsters in this world lets them level up and gain skills and jobs that make them stronger so they can kill more monsters. For the past 2 days, he has said they risked their lives to verify those claims, so if the strangers demand mutual help, they want some guarantee, like being useful to the group's survival. And Kyudo thinks Nishino made sensible points by laying out the facts and conditions, but the others refused to believe, expected to survive without doing anything, and left Kyudo feeling bad that they are turning a blind eye to reality. After that, one of the men lies down and begs Nishino for help. Nishino said it would not convince them, but many people still begged him for help all at once. Kyudo doubts he could have handled that. Overly dependent people think everything will work out if they just cry and beg. He doesn't want to get involved with them, so he decided to put off going to the hardware store for now. He wonders whether those students will be able to disperse the crowd. Instead, Kyudo went to the medical store, where he saw several men gathering supplies in the. Their hands looked empty and they didn't seem to have an item box. After he moved to the side and decided to try out the new functions of his item box here. Storage went faster when he put everything away more quickly than before. Previously, he could hold fewer items, but now he can store up to 10 items in vision at once, which makes the item box much more flexible. And after finishing here, he headed to nearby stores while Kyudo stored many items from this. Still under the area's storage limit, he is eager to see what happens when he upgrades the item box to level 10. Now that the store items were taken care of, the only place left to collect items was the hardware store, and he wondered what had happened to those items. He went to the hardware store and ran a scan to see who was inside. Kyudo learned those guys ended up taking in the evacuees, which sounds like a real hassle, but it doesn't concern him. Only the hardware store's inventory matters to him, and he's curious about their stock levels and what information they have. Walking through the store, he found a back window, so he had. Momo opened it from the inside with a shot. Kyudo thanked her for all her help, and now he slipped into the hardware store to pick up supplies for. From the water, he could tell someone had been here until just a short time ago. As he moved further in, Kyudo used presence erasure when he saw those students from. Earlier, while with Nishino, Kyudo decided to gather some intel for him. He now used his listening skill to hear them through the. In the room, Nishino's gang asked if it was really okay to take those people in because they barely have enough for themselves. Nishino admitted that, but said they are short-handed and need more people, so he asked Shibata, the blonde, if those people believed in skills and levels, and Shibata said he had given a demonstration, but they were still only half convinced, and some were too scared to kill monsters, which they cannot tolerate. Yet Nishino thinks they should wait for some to level up, so they can search other areas and be in a stronger position. Shibata asked Nishino whether he really thought those people would obey him. Nishino, however, has a trump card. His Sky SSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSS Kyudo hadn't expected a calm face to hide brutal thoughts, and the man's confidence made him wonder what skill Nishina had. Nishino now plans to increase their food supplies as a priority because more people have arrived, but then a man ran in with bad news, and when Nishino asked what had happened, he said the men who went out earlier had just returned. There was a problem. Kyudo wondered if a powerful monster like a high orc had appeared. What he heard next shocked him, because a man said the drugstore, the convenience store, and the nearby supermarket were all empty. Kyudo feels guilty because it was definitely his fault, and Nishino is troubled because that means there's no food left out there. He quickly asked Ono, the specs guy, how much food they had left, and Ono said they could last about 3 days if it was just them, but less once he included new people. They have barely enough to get through a day. Nishino warned him to keep it secret, because if others find out they might try to rebel. Things are more chaotic now, and with the disappearance of. Concerning the goods, he doubts it, and thinks it must be the work of someone with space-related skills, and he guesses they must be high-level as. Otaku guessed it was a skill like item box or transportation magic, and Kyudo hadn't expected his skill to be that easy to guess. Shibata now asks whether they'll search for the person responsible, and Nishino is worried. The thief could use the stolen goods as leverage to force people to do whatever they want in return. That possibility terrified them, but Kyudo knows he would never do anything like that, and he did not expect anyone else when he stored those supplies. So Nishino must secure a large amount of food and plans to widen their search area, despite the risk being their only option now. And he decided to leave at dawn tomorrow, because if the culprit tries to monopolize all the supplies they might come here too, so they need to be on. After the guard left the room, Kyudo stood up and left without taking anything. Feeling guilty after causing a huge misunderstanding, he can't just take their supplies from the hardware store, so he finds shelter in an unoccupied place to sit and think about it. At that moment, he sensed monsters nearby. Nearby, 4 monsters seemed to be heading to the hardware store. He gets ready to leave immediately with Momo to check what's happening in front of the hardware. At the hardware store, a pack of wolf-like monsters has taken it over, and Kyudo notices they are smaller than the one he hit, so he treats them as lesser wolves. Wolves are nearby, and Momo is acting strange around them. Inside, the students don't seem to have noticed the wolves, and Kyudo noticed something was wrong with Mo. He realized she didn't want to fight those monsters, and when Kyudo said he couldn't just do that, she became upset. Explaining they were monsters, he said he couldn't afford to adopt one. Momo understood, and now Kyudo can focus on the problem. Kyudo knows his presence might be revealed to the lesser shadow wolves since they could catch his scent. His trump cards don't work on them, so he's considering letting those students fight while he makes off with the hardware store's supplies, and he wonders what level those students are. He wondered if any of them could become his ally instead, and soon the students noticed the monster's attack, which began when a wolf bit a student's arm. Other students swung the iron rod and wounded the wolf, but Kyudo, watching from a distance, thought it was strange that they weren't using real techniques and looked like inexperienced fighters. Nishino steps forward and asks the injured man if he's okay. After observing the whole situation, he tells Ono to take these guys back to patch them up while everyone else takes defensive positions. Other students heeded Nishino's call and gathered around him, alerting the lesser shadow wolves, who began plotting. A wolf howled at the sky, its call echoing across the area. The students wonder what the monster is doing, but Nishino is on. Remaining alert, they encounter an unexpected situation, as the shadow wolves have summoned zombies and goblins from nearby areas. He never expected even monsters to ask for help. Kyudo learned that shadow wolf's howl could attract monsters from different species. It was extremely effective because monsters showed up quickly in the area. Kyudo may have trouble getting out of here without a fight. Soon the wolves tracked him down by his scent. This is his worst match so far, because he can't use his skill advantages against the shadow wolves, and he told them to go to the one who called them even though he didn't expect it to work, so he prepared himself too. Sensing the fight, he alerted Momo, and they took a battle stance. The shadow wolves surrounded him to set up an ambush, and Kyudo was glad they were within his range. Dropping heavy items right above the shadow wolves caught them all by surprise, and after the enemy died, Kyudo received experience points and reached level 8. He saw one of the wolves dodge his attack. That one was handled by Momo, who paralyzed its movements, and Kyudo finished it with a vending machine strike. Using the machine, he cleared his side and gave all the magic stones to Momo. He noticed more shadow wolves ahead of the students still howling, so he scanned and detected over 20 monsters in the area. Fortunately, no one was nearby, so he took the chance to escape, hoping the students could survive on their own. He saw a couple of evacuees also join the fighting. Nishino, their leader, actively applied buffs to his teammates. They were helping to fight monsters, but the most surprising was the girl with a butcher knife, who charged straight at the group and slashed them one by one. The shadow wolves tried to restrain her with shadow manipulation, but she snapped it with her raw strength and killed more of them. Kyudo was impressed by her performance and suspected she was using a power boost skill like Berserk, making her ideal for frontline combat. He cannot afford to waste time watching them fight carelessly. His danger detection is reacting strongly, which suggests there is something more here. Then another shadow wolf appeared, larger than the others, so it must be their leader. Kyudo can't forget that the first monster he beat was one he accidentally ran over with his car, but now he has to fight it for real. Knowing he cannot escape until he defeats it, he quickly prepares for battle by spending 10 skill points to raise the item box to level 10. The shadow wolf attacked him using the shadow manipulation scheme. Kyudo is well aware of this skill because it's the same as Momo's. Using an item box, he turned shelves into a shield. The shadow wolf lifted the shelves easily and crushed them with its shadow. Showing part of it, the creature surged with strength, then charged straight at Kyudo, and he barely dodged, showing it was faster than any monster he'd faced, so Kyudo jumped sideways to evade the wolf's straight charges, while Momo used her shadow skill to try to restrain it. The shadow wolf canceled her attack with its own shadow, and Kyudo seized the chance to see how many items the wolf could dodge at once. The shadow wolf managed to catch the 4 large vending machines Kyudo hurled at it. Despite weighing several hundred kilograms, that lone wolf overcame Kyudo's best strategy, forcing him to think harder to come up with something better. He remembers that these shadow wolves may be strong and fast, but they also seem to be low and, because it's so durable, he must find a way to land a blow on it. It wasn't over. Kyudo was surrounded by more small shadow wolves helping their leader, and he realized the monsters had split off from the front of the hardware store, so he had to face even more of them. He has to be serious, or he'll die here. Kyudo went ahead and used the item box to kill the lesser shadow wolves with heavy items, but it still left him with the hard. Unable to figure out how to fight that shadow wolf, he spotted an open pathway and ran toward it, tossing obstacles behind him. In the open parking area, he figured out how to get the most from the storage. The shadow wolf kept following him the whole time, the way until Kyudo was KO. At that moment, he decided to use another trump card, his damaged car, the secret weapon he had been saving to use against the monsters. Instinctively, the shadow wolf used shadow manipulation to catch the car. It was heavier than the previous items, so it required more of its stamina. Kyudo increased the difficulty and threw more cars into the shadows. While running through the parking lot, he picked up the wolf. Now the cars have formed a barricade around the shadow wolf. It cannot be jumped over because he knows that when using shadow manipulation, the shadow skill ends the moment the user's feet leave the ground. The shadow wolf won't be able to keep the car lifted for long and won't be able to dodge because of the other cars. Kyudo dropped another car onto the one shadow wolf was holding, adding more weight, and almost won this fucking. In the fight, Momo used her shadow skill to stop the shadow wolf from making any desperate. Kyudo crushed it with the last car, acquired experience and rose from level 8 to 9, felt relieved that he had somehow beaten those wolves by himself, and then collected the magic stones from the ground. Deciding to check on the hardware store group, he found they had somehow pulled through because they had unknowingly fought only half the monsters while Kyudo handled the rest. Nishino abruptly turned to look at Kyudo. That surprised Kyudo because he had been hiding the present. It seemed Nishino hadn't seen him. He must have only felt someone's presence, which shows how incredible Nishino is. Besides, earlier he didn't call out when he sensed someone was here, so he must have decided not to disturb us. Having just hidden from them, Kyudo moved to a safe place, defeated more monsters along the way, and reached level 10. After finding a place to rest, Kyudo spent his skill points to level up before bed. Earlier, he had received a notification that his item box had reached its maximum level, making him eligible to select extra functions. Kyudo opened it excitedly to check the new options, and there it was. Kyudo finally got the preservation function he needed, so his biggest worry is now a thing of the past, and adding a function costs him 3 skill points, and he asks Momo if she wants to eat magic stones too. In the end, his stats were stronger than before, as they should be after leveling up 3 times. In one day, the most striking change was a boost in agility and dexterity, and Momo leveled up and will soon reach level 10. Leaning against the stone, his second night in this apocalyptic world ended. The next morning, Kyudo woke up beside Momo and greeted her as usual. He noticed Momo had grown a little since yesterday. It's a new day, so she must have leveled up. He asked her to tell him if she feels unwell at any time. After a short rest, they headed out to start the 3rd day in the apocalyptic world, and Kyudo says he knows a good place nearby. They end up visiting a construction site. This place is a treasure trove of weapons for him, since item boxes let him use heavy gear, and with no monsters nearby, he figures he can quickly collect it all. Kyudo was amazed at how quickly it was done with a level 10 item box, and now he wonders if he should head back to the hardware store. Unexpectedly, he came across a treasure chest. He remembered a similar one from the game that sometimes had traps, and he didn't think this was one since danger detection wasn't reacting, but he didn't want to risk it, so he had Momo use her shadow to open the CH. The chest, just as he feared, was actually a monster disguised as a treasure chest. Kyudo figures the creature that attacked Momo's shadow must have detection jamming skills since it avoided his danger detection. He crushed it with a heavy car and took the mimic monster's magic stone. After they left, Kyudo noticed something shiny on the path. A closer look revealed it was a slime, one of Fantasy's classic monsters. Worried that slimes might eat grass and be dangerous, he noticed the detection reacting slightly, so he asked Momo to hunt it down, and she used her shadow to squash the slime. The slime wasn't hurt and slid past it. Kyudo hadn't expected it to survive. While Momo was angry after failing to kill such a weak monster. Kyudo wondered if dropping a refrigerator would do the trick. Even after dropping one heavily on the slime, it survived without even doing any th. Kyudo felt cornered as his ironclad strategy had now failed not only against Shadow Wolf, but even against a slime, and he learned slimes are immune to physical attacks. Kyudo burned it, the slime died easily, and he gained experience points. Momo chomped down Slime's stone, and he realized the toughest monster he'd faced was a slime because physical attacks did nothing, so he wondered whether the high orc might have a weakness too. So far, he doesn't remember anything like that. Meanwhile, Nishino plans to split into 2 groups to search the surrounding area on the map. Meanwhile, they'll look for another shelter, and if they find a safer place, they'll secure the route and move there. The exploration teams were chosen, and the rest were assigned to stay on guard here and help people who had leveled up after defeating monsters. After everyone left, Nishino told Rika their duty was to level up those who hadn't yet, but she didn't want such a troublesome, boring task. He said it was important because they lacked fighting power, and Rika understood. She believes anyone who won't level up willingly will only be a burden because they will always complain that killing monsters is impossible, so she'd rather kill them and make it look like an accident. That way they could at least earn experience points. Nishino cut her off immediately, and after apologizing for forgetting the rule, she was strictly forbidden from mentioning it again. If this got out, there was no telling what chaos would follow, and there would be people willing to cross that line, so they couldn't let that happen, and she understood him at once. Meanwhile, Kyudo had just arrived and saw fewer students on guard than yesterday. Yesterday left Kyudo unsure what to do next, since it would be easier to be branded a thief for stealing hardware supplies and run. After what happened, those students must be on high alert. He overheard someone mention skills and used his ability to listen in, learning they were lecturing newbies about levels, stats, and skills. Eventually, the presenter explained skill points and job points and said everyone starts with 2 skill points and 1 job point. They can also use those points to choose 1 job and 2 skills. The skills surprised Kyudo, since that meant everyone began with only a few points. He began immediately with 10 job and skill points, most likely due to his early development skill. Besides, they don't seem to have anything as unique as him, so Kyudo was actually pretty luck. Sensing Nishino's group's presence, he decided to pull back for now after gathering important information and borrowed some gardening supplies from there. Kyudo left safely and figures early development was more overpowered than he thought. Nearby, he noticed more slimes by the garbage. The slimes seemed able to eat almost anything, and because they posed no threat to him, he was about to walk away just like. A red slime caught his eye, different from the usual blue ones, and he thought it might be a higher-level slime, so he wanted to try feeding it the plastic trash from his bento. I'm wondering whether it will eat things like that and… The sound stared at it eagerly and seemed happy as it gobbled up the trash just as it was. He finished it in a few minutes, looking well fed. After that, Red Slime looked at. Kyudo received an announcement that Red Slime wishes to be friends with him, so he accepted. Kyudo was surprised to learn he could be friends with monsters, and the Red Slime keeps looking at him with liability while he looks back confused because he doesn't think being friends with a slime would help him. And although physical attacks can't hurt it, the slime is very slow in battle and would only hold him and Momo back. After he rejected the slime, it became gloomy. Kyudo left just like that, leaving a sad slime behind. On the roof, the sniper girl from before was still hunting monsters quietly and making sure none could get close to the building she was in. She earned so many experience points that she could no longer see monsters in nearby areas. It was clear she would have to leave soon. Given her job and skills, she knew she should not move much, but survival meant finding another building, and she wished someone could help. She wondered whether that man and his dog were still alive, since from what she saw they were not the type to be killed easily, and that dog was just… It's so cute, she wants to see it again. With a map skill, she can see the whole area clearly, and since she needs to collect food and furniture now, she decides to set out alone. Kyudo rested in an abandoned apartment while eating lunch. Today he brought out regular dog food for Momo. She seemed upset, and he pretended to be mad at her for being picky. Loving her more than anything, he brought out extra premium dog food and gave it to her. He tried to explain that he doesn't have many of those in stock. They both had a good lunch and were completely full. The situation called for a short rest, and Kyudo wondered why he felt so secure. Living like this made him realize how much KKJCB should have appreciated his normal life. This wouldn't have satisfied him in his old life. Kyudo remembered he needed to give the magic stones to Momo and handed them to her. Momo had eaten most of them and left one. Kyudo remembered it belonged to that mimic monster. Then Momo picked it up and threw it aside. Kyudo acted randomly, told her she could not just throw it out, went to pick it up again but found the red slime before he reached it, and asked whether it had followed them all the way. The red slime seemed to really want to be with him. Kyudo tried to be polite and refused again, then he noticed the mimic magic stone inside it. He tried to take it back, but Momo stopped him. That made him wonder if Momo hates him now. Momo shook. She nodded and Kyudo asked Momo if she wanted to be friends with that slime. Momo seemed willing, so she tossed the magic stone to the red one. After that, the red slime turned into the same plastic trash Kyudo had fed it earlier. That taught him the mimic monster skill, which the slime inherited. The slime remained just as heavy and Kyudo's detection did not work on it, just like when he failed to sense a mimic disguised as a treasure chest. He admits this is a pretty cool skill, and it seems like Momo and SL. They tend to use it as a selling point to get Kyudo to accept the slime, and Kyudo had to admit Momo's intuition was amazing. Soon Slime made the same request to be his friend, and he gave up. He thought Mimic's skill could make up for the slime's slow movement, and he could use the slime's immunity to physical attacks. More importantly, Momo wanted it, so he trusted her and accepted the slime into his possession. Kyudo received an announcement that he qualified to upgrade his Beast Master job to Monster Master and wanted to check out their skills, and before that he had watched how Momo treated the slime as a friend. Now it's his turn to name the slime. Because it was a red slime, he named it Ruby. The slime seemed to like the name. Ruby was registered under its new name at the party, and Momo also seemed to gain another level. He left wearing a jacket that was actually Ruby in disguise, since Ruby can mimic anything it eats, but only if the object is about the same size as Ruby. Also, the clothing the Ruby mimics is durable and can act as a bulletproof vest, which significantly boosted Kyudo's defense. He found some monsters to test Ruby's battle abilities. The hunt ran more smoothly than before, and Kyudo reached level 11. He put points into important skills and his assassins. After finishing the job, they shared the magic stones with Momo and Ruby. Suddenly, something happened to Momo. Kyudo began to worry about what it could be. He suspected she might evolve after reaching level 10. He was right as Momo evolved into a level 1 assassin dog. She kept going, although she looked the same as before. Kyudo checked that she was all right, and he thought nothing about her had changed, except that her class was assassin dog. Worried she might evolve into a shadow wolf, he was relieved that her cuteness stayed the same, and that was all that mattered. After learning Momo's new skills, he went to test them against a hobgoblin and 3 normal goblins. Momo manipulated shadows from farther away. Easily she restrained all 4 of them, even the hobgoblin. She didn't stop there, she also crushed 3. Her shadow alone took out the goblins and badly wounded the hobgoblin. Kudo finished off the hobgoblin himself, and his level rose to 12. Kudo now remembers that he and Momo have higher levels. They have grown stronger, but they are still no match for a high orc like that. A strange feeling still nags him, making him consider leaving town once they level up a few more times. Meanwhile, Shibata from the exploration team was terrified. He seemed to be running from something, but it was pointless. His life was now in danger, and he kept wondering how things had come to this. Because they just widened their search to find food. He was sure they could take on goblins and zombies, but he never expected to encounter anything this terrifying. He ran off, leaving his comrades behind and putting his own life first. He was truly sorry because he had to leave others behind to save himself. Immediately warned Nishino and others about this threat. The high orc was bored. No matter how long he waited at the building, he could not find anyone strong enough to make a fight enjoyable. To him, battle was a sacred ritual that satisfied his instincts and entertained him. Even the skyborn fighters who had seemed promising proved to be weak. His patience had run out. The high orc set out on his own to find prey worthy of satisfying his hunger. The high orc screamed. It sounded like a declaration that he was coming and that nap time was over. The whole town was about to turn from a danger zone into a kill zone, while our boy Kudo remained unaware. Kudo realized some of the men belonged to Nishino's group that owned. Ono is in charge. The others found some food and wanted to eat some here before taking the rest back. Ono tried to tell them they didn't have time to stop and should head back quickly. No one paid attention to him, and Kudo saw that the men were behaving like bullies, so Ono, the person in charge, became their victim. Kudo then noticed several lesser shadow wolves chasing Stu. The students became agitated and wanted to fight when they saw the wolves. Ono told them to hurry back to the base, but they refused to run and wanted to show off how strong they'd become from leveling up, so he warned the wolves could call their pack and they'd be finished, and Kudo agreed with the assessment. Even yesterday, what seemed manageable turned dangerous when those wolves called for reinforcements. Most of them came after him too. If those meatheads got surrounded like that, they'd surely die. They had to kill the 2 lesser wolves themselves instantly, but the wolves turned out to be tougher than they expected. Ono had to make a call for the group's sake and ran, leaving the others behind. Kudo knows that was the right move because they wouldn't listen, and it's better for him to bring back at least some food than nothing. One of those stupid guys nearly lost his life. A shot struck the wolf's head and somehow saved him. They didn't understand what had just happened, but they were saved and need to run now. Kudo clearly saw it was a sniper and that the shot came from the tall building over there. He wondered whether the shooter was from the self-defense force. An email arrived, surprising him since he hadn't expected such a skill, and the system informed him about the email skill and that he had an unread message. To be safe, Kudo hid in a nearby building to figure out what the email meant, and he learned he can only read emails for now and must level up to use other features like sending them. The sender's name was Ikino's Natsu, and it looked like a greeting email, so Kudo tries to remember who that could be since he doesn't know any Ikino's Natsu from work or anywhere else. He opened the mail that contained her introduction. Someone asked whether he had watched the earlier battle where shots were fired, and she admitted she had fired those shots. Kudo guessed it was probably a man who talks too much in his messages, just trying to apologize for startling Kudo by suddenly shooting those monsters. Finally, the main reason to contact the COO is. Kudo heard they wanted to form a party with him and his dog, and hearing that made him wonder about many things, but the other party made clear they had no ulterior motive and only wanted to help him and his cute dog, who also has great fur, and Kudo finally finished that long paragraph. The graphic made it look like a business email, but the message is actually inviting them to the same party, and he is unsure what to do because they don't seem like a bad person. They talked about Momo a lot, and from this part alone, he is sure they are not a bad person. They could be the long-range attacker he hoped for, but it might be a trap. If they watched his fight with goblins yesterday, they might also know about the item box. Kudo thinks the gaze he felt then came from the sniper, so he can't ignore the email. He at least wanted to reply to let him consider it and buy some time, but Kudo couldn't reply and needed to level up the email. Meanwhile, at the building, each of us thought this would work well for. She's proud she managed to communicate despite her fear of strangers, and now she can meet that cute person. For someone afraid of strangers, the dog sure has a lot too. Talk about it, she can't wait to cuddle a Shiba Inu to her heart's content. Worried he had missed her email or ignored it out of suspicion, she sent another, then spotted typos in the first and sent a correction, then praised his dog again and kept sending mail to him for one reason or another. She kept emailing until Kudo replied and learned he couldn't reply earlier because he didn't have the email skill. He said he would consider her offer to form a party but needed some time, and he told her she didn't need to send any more mails because he had to finish the earlier ones first. She agreed that she'd look forward to his reply, but she hoped he would have written a longer one. Kudo just witnessed the dark side of modern society. Emails had flooded in for the past hour, so he couldn't focus on fighting. He had to rush to kill monsters to spend skill points to unlock email and reply to her so she'd stop. She kept spamming him. It affected him so much that his stress resistance rose from level 5 to 6, and he now just wanted to run away and ignore it. He didn't think they were a bad person, but they were clearly crazy. Kudo then received another. In an email, she said that if he raised it to level 2, they could chat properly without delays. Kudo replied immediately, thanked her for the information, and asked her again to wait a bit before he considered forming a party. The main question now is who Ikano's Natsu is. After stump reading some mails, he confirmed she was a woman, fielded many questions about her skills and how she got a gun, which would only be possible if she obtained it illegally or can make weapons, and he could tell from her last shot that she must be pretty high. The more he thought about it, the more uncertain he became about her. Long-term support would be amazing, but Kudo did not want the risk of betrayal. Another email arrived, and she replied immediately every time. Meanwhile, at the hardware shop, Ono returned to the base, and Nishino asked him where everyone else was. Elsewhere, Ono told him what happened, and they split up. Nishino was relieved that Ono at least returned safely. Ono asked what happened to Shibata's group, and Nishino said they were late, and that if they did not arrive in an hour, they would have to form a search party for them, while Ono stood upset trying to convince himself he hadn't done anything wrong by running away. At that moment, Shibata came running in, gasping, and immediately reported the grave threat to their lives. Meanwhile, Kudo was walking well away from town. You notice slimes floating in the water. Ruby returned to her original form and said something to Momo, then Momo used her Shadow uses a skill to catch one of the slimes and brings it to Ruby. Kudo wonders what she will do with it. He watches Ruby suck the slime in like food and feels pretty amazed afterward. Suddenly, Ruby split into two parts that seemed to share a single mind. Kudo felt amazed and equally confused. After he used it, Ruby looked at him as if asking for praise, so he praised Ruby for what it had done. It looked like something that would come in handy. Momo wanted a pet from him, and he thanked Momo for helping Ruby. Then he asked Ruby if he wanted to suck in more slimes. Ruby nodded, and Momo caught more slimes floating in the water. After Ruby ate many slimes, Kudo said they should leave now to be safe, and at that moment his scanner reacted strongly, so he realized an orc was heading his way. The orc attacked him the moment he saw Kudo. Kudo quickly ordered Momo to restrain the orc. Not wasting time, he dropped an entire crane onto the orc to kill it instantly. Suddenly, the orcs broke their restraint and attacked Kudo, hurling a blade at him. He hadn't expected it and couldn't find a way to dodge in time. Ruby transformed in an instant and blocked the incoming knife, saving Kudo's life while the orc was crushed under the crane, and Kudo gained experience. Ruby's intervention earned points and saved Kudo's life, reminding him he cannot take it easy because his opponents are real monsters with wills of their own. Grabbing the orc's knife, he scanned again more carefully. He detected far more enemies than before, and it was a whole pack of shadow wolves. Seeing the group of shadow wolves, Kudo wondered if the orc from earlier was fleeing them. Either way, he knows he can't take on this many shadow wolves. His only option is to go back the way he came, since the plan to escape the town failed. After several attempts failed, she grew bored and sad waiting for his reply, and the weight of it made her worry she had spammed him, so not wanting to seem troublesome, she stopped sending emails and waited patiently for an answer. Wanting to stay on his good side so he would let her cuddle his dog, she decided to pass the time by hunting monsters to gain levels, prepared her sniper and began looking for targets, one-shotting goblins, shadow wolves, and fighting orcs gave her a lot of experience, and she credits her powerful gun for it. That makes up for her weak physical stats, but she wondered if choosing a job other than shut-in would have been better. 3 days earlier, she remembered playing games and taking a long leave from high school, clearly a shut-in who went days without sleeping, and she finally thought it was time to take a break. A giant, strange fly appeared in front of her. She quickly rolled a magazine and used it to smash the bug. That earned her first experience points and raised her to level 1, but she was slow. Half asleep, she treated it as just a dream, casually checked her stats like in a game, and chose shut-in as her job without thinking because it fit her life. Ultimately, that life decision turned out to be a mistake. Her physical stats dropped after taking the job, but she had a special skill that explains how she got her gun and landed a second role as a sniper. So she decided to use her skill, Pick Me Up Again, which is basically a gotcha skill that costs 1 skill point to pull 3 gotchas. She wanted to know what she'd get from it. This time the first ball was plain white and full of instant noodles, which explains how she survived so long in this world, because her gotcha gave her food, skills, and other things. The second ball was blue, which is better than plain white. She gained 3 skill points from those, and finally Echanos received a rare. The ball gave her exactly what she needed, a physical enhancement skill. She returned to grinding levels, but she was surprised. Through her eyes, she saw a gang of orcs leaving their base, the shopping mall. Both orcs, the smaller one and the taller one called the high orc, were clearly out of her league, so she stayed quiet and watched where they were going until she realized they were heading toward the hardware store. At the same time, Kyudo returned to the area after losing track of the shadow wolves, took a short break to eat, then inspected the orc's knife he had taken earlier because he thought it would be better than the kitchen knife he'd been using. Putting that aside, Kyudo needed to check his mail because he'd had it on silent for some time, and from Ikenos' message he learned those orcs, including a tan one, were making a move, so he immediately realized they were likely the ones from the shopping mall, and her report said the bigger orc had started moving to hunt for more prey, which left him with a bad feeling about the hardware store. It makes him wonder if Nishino and the others will be okay. Shibata told Nishino everything about the orcs and admitted he felt deep guilt for leaving his friends to save himself. Nishino said that if Shibata had stayed he would have died too and they would not have learned about the danger, praised his actions, and told him that if he still has regrets he should do his best to keep surviving. Rika asked Nishino what to do next, and he said they had no choice but to move because strong monsters were coming. Nishino considered the school or city hall, but a loud scream from outside showed they had no time left, and the guards reported sighting a pack of O. Outside, students were fighting monsters, so Nishino rushed to check, and a guard warned the creatures were far too strong for them. He was in a pinch and had to decide fast before everyone was wiped out. At a glance, he could tell the monsters were too strong. He was wrong, and the one in the back was on another level entirely. At one point, he asked Rika if she could take on that tan orc. She replied without hesitation that she would clearly die in a second if she faced it, so Nishino figured that if Rika felt the same they had no choice, and he ordered everyone to follow the plan and survive by any means possible. Nishino had planned 4 strategies from the start, but his friends did not expect they would use the 4th and others were confused because they had never heard of it. The 4th assumed the worst. That evacuees would be used as a decoy while they ran away, and only his friends knew about it, so Nishino kept calling to mislead everyone by telling them to slowly fall back into the store before they carried out the plan. A strategy his friends were reluctant to use. Because they were clearly using other people as bait, Nishino took full responsibility and told the others they couldn't just die with those people and had to be strong enough to choose to survive. They agreed with him in the end, Nishino had to stand by his decision. Meanwhile, Kyudo noticed it was starting to rain. Flames appeared to be coming from the direction of the hardware store. Kyudo received an email at the same time, with Ikenos telling him about the hardware store fire and orcs actively hunting humans, and she asked whether he had decided on the party request, which Kyudo noticed was a sly way to slip that request into an important update. First, he asked Ruby if she could turn into a raincoat. That made it easy for him to move in the rain, and after walking a bit, he sensed 2 people nearby in the park who were not moving. Kyudo went to check and found Nishino holding Rika, who had passed out from a serious injury. When Nishino asked whether anyone was ahead, it showed he had a perception-type skill, and barely conscious, he asked Kyudo for help. Hearing calls for help, Momo couldn't leave them and approached Nishino. Nishino hadn't expected a dog and asked anyone nearby for help. He collapsed and lay unconscious on the ground. Kyudo asked Momo if she wanted to save them, even though he could do little to help. After Momo kept insisting, Kyudo ended up carrying both Nishino and Riku. He took Rika to a safe place, stopped her bleeding immediately, and then treated Nishino. He lifted her bloodstained shirt and surprisingly found no wound, which meant she had some self-healing ability. Relieved the hardest part was over, he decided to disinfect her clothes and wrap it in a bandage for now. After treating them, Kyudo left spare bandages, medicine and energy drinks that should be enough for them to survive, and he should leave before they wake up. Kyudo wondered what to do since orcs should be near hardware stores now, meaning fewer monsters around the shopping mall, but he worried about Ikenos because her apartment is close to the hardware store, so he considered emailing her to evacuate. When he checked his email, there were no unread messages, which was unusual since she usually sent one every minute, and Kyudo looked at the apartment building with a bad feeling. The building's rooftop suddenly exploded, driving him away. Kyudo used his distant vision to see a high orc, the kind who belonged in a hardware store, on the rooftop of that building. Kyudo felt awful because he hadn't even thought of a monster, had chosen that spot as the best place to watch the surroundings, and could tell from High Orc's eyes that it was hunting. Kyudo wondered what had happened to Ikanos. There was no time to think because the High Orc had definitely found Kyudo and was now targeting him as its next prey. Kyudo would never forget that scream. This is the third time he has heard it, and each time someone dies because of it. This time it is aimed directly at him. Kyudo immediately told Momo to run, because if they failed to get away from that thing, he would be finished. All he could think about was running faster and faster. He could not rest knowing he was the prey this time. Needing to get away fast, Kyudo became so desperate that his escape skill jumped from level 1 to 4, and his fear resistance rose from 5 to 6, and he could feel his speed increase thanks to the escape skill leveling up. The bad feeling didn't fade even at that distance. The High Orc didn't move from its spot, then suddenly coiled its legs as if preparing to jump. Kyudo can't believe that thing is actually going to do that. The High Orc launched into the air with the force of a bazooka shot. It landed right in front of Kyudo, shattering the ground in the process. Kyudo hoped it was a joke. Right now this is not just crazy, but completely illogical. The High Orc stretched its muscles as if preparing to fight. The fight left Kyudo no choice but to call Momo in, and she used Shadow to try to restrain the High Orc even a little. It was a small attempt, but useless because the orc broke through it in a second. Kyudo racked his brain for an idea, while he reflexively threw an entire crane at the beast. Even the multi-ton crane was lifted by the orc with a single hand. Kyudo could not stay calm at this sight. When the High Orc hurled the entire crane at him like a ball, he had to act but could think of nothing to save him from it. Ruby turned into a large ball to take the full impact on herself. That sent them flying around the street like ping-pong balls. Against all odds, Kyudo survived something that should have killed him. He knows he was saved only by Ruby's quick intervention there. The High Orc moved toward him slowly, giving off a troll-like vibe. Kyudo felt so pressured he started chuckling because he couldn't make sense of what was happening and kept wondering if he had done something awful to deserve it. Kyudo shouted that the whole damn world was unreasonable and began throwing things at the High Orc, which were slashed easily. After the High Orc dodged the water bottle, Kyudo seized the chance and threw a water balloon filled with Tabasco. The York also dodged it without any. Then he stood directly in front of Kyudo, with its sword hovering above his head. The High Orc just slapped Kyudo instead, sending him Jew. Landing on concrete and trash a few meters away, he thought this might be the first time in a long while he had felt pain, and until now he had never felt fear in a fight or suffered any injuries. It hurt more than he expected. When he hit the last corner, he shouted and begged anyone nearby for help, crying out because he felt he was about to be killed. The rate makes him want to cry. Nobody would answer him. Nobody was here except his friend Momo, who was hiding in his shadow and could not watch him suffer. Despite her fear, Momo stood before him. She was trembling. Kyudo told her to stop, otherwise she would not even be able to get away alive. Momo bit his hand after hearing that. After that, she licked his cheeks, as if she wanted him to stay cool and collected. Momo then risked everything and charged the High Orc, who welcomed another fight, however pathetic it was. Momo tried to attack the High Orc using shadow manipulation. Still, it was useless. The orc did not even have to do. His screams alone sent Momo flying. Skill, Kyudo tried to make Momo live. Momo refused to give up and held her ground to protect her owner's life. In desperation, she jumped up and bit the orc's hand. Kyudo wanted her to stop struggling. Annoyed by Momo, the High Orc clenched his fist while holding his sword. Someone was about to swing it down on Momo, and Kyudo wanted to stop this because of that thing. But Momo will definitely die. The orc swings the sword down, intending to strike. Kyudo remembered the good days with Momo. When he came home tired, petting her would make him refer. Refreshed, Momo stayed by his side, even after the world changed. She was now risking her life to save him. The High Orc was enjoying it. He swung the blade down, and Kyudo shouted for it to stop. Telling Momo to dodge it, he watched her quickly jump back as Kyudo dropped another crane at him. The High Orc did not think that dog would survive. This angered him. Kyudo rushed in to save her. After the fall, he pulled away from the High Orc and He asked Momo whether she was trying to get herself killed. To show how far she would go, Momo licked him because he means a lot to her. Kyudo realized that Momo's reaction was the most natural for her. Once afraid, he stood up, returned her gesture, and thanked her for what she had done. He steeled himself and drew the blade he'd been carrying to fight this tall orc with everything he had. Now determined to overcome the fear of death itself, Kyudo raised his fear resistance from 6 to 8. He knows he won't beat it, but Momo will and Ruby will too. That was something he could not accept, even if it cost him his own life now, so he tried to think of a way to defeat the High Orc. He began recalling every ending and every moment he had of it. Kyudo learned the focus skill in the process, and it rose to level. Focusing more, he noticed the High Orcs had been doing something particular since the beginning, so he decided to risk everything on this chance. He dove toward the heights with Momo. This time he didn't look away from it for a single second. He watched every move the High Orc made with care. Using everything he had, he aimed to force it to drop its blade. Kyudo landed a surprise strike on the High Orc's hands and forced him to drop his blade. He quickly threw something at it, and the High Orc dodged, confirming his doubts. Kyudo is certain now that it wasn't simply avoiding that thing because it was too weak to resist. That must be why Nishino and the others survived after facing the Hyor. With Kyudo aware of High Orc's weakness, he emptied a bunch of open water bottles onto it because High Orcs were weak to water, and when the water hit it, the High Orcs began screaming and Pain and Kyudo's trick worked, giving him a chance to beat that overpowered monster, and he had never imagined a towering orc could have such a tiny weakness. Now he told Momo to go for attack with Shadow's skill while the High Orcs are suffering. Kyudo thought it was over for now, but the High Orc still had something up his sleeve. When it began shouting and its eyes went red as if something had flipped inside it, Kyudo didn't want to. Surprisingly, the High Orc used berserk skills and became even stronger than before. Knowing it's the same skill Rika uses, he won't be stopped by its weakness. Now the High Orc swooped in and tried to punch Cougar. He was sent flying, could not even see its movements. Even in midair, the High Orc caught up to him and landed more punches, and Ruby protected him from the damage, but he was still pushed meters away. Kyudo was hurt, but he had to hold on and keep going because the berserk state would only last so long, so he dropped heavy items at the High. The orc, however, crushed them with his bare fists. They closed in on Kyudo, who was furious. Kyudo was just as scared because this thing had no limits to its strength. Then the orc sent his blade flying. This left him defenseless and open to any attack from the High Orc, which sneered as it now gained the advantage. Kyudo thought it was over for him. Out of nowhere, a sniper shot the orc in the right eye. After being shot, Kyudo's life was saved once more. He looked again toward the tall building where the shot came from and realized it must have been Ikino's. She's still alive, relieved she arrived at the right moment. He can't let the chance she created slip away. Kyudo poured more water on the orc. Momo repeatedly tried to pierce its body with her shadow. Eventually, Kyudo let go. Heavy cars also tried to kill it as quickly as possible. The High Orc still had plenty of fight left. It picked up its blade with a grin. Kyudo Campbell. Leave this thing, it's still enjoying itself. It did so even in that situation, while Kyudo tried to stab with a kitchen knife. Momo stepped in at the last moment and stopped the High Orc from blocking Kyudo's attack, allowing Kyudo to stab the High Orc in the heart with a knife and inflict a serious wound. On it, the High Orc fell with a smile, as if it had enjoyed itself until the end. The bee died and hit the ground with a thud, and Kyudo couldn't believe he had finally managed to kill it. He stayed until he confirmed the High Orc's body had vanished and dropped a large magic stone behind. Kyudo gained so much experience that his level jumped from 13 to 16, and he received an announcement that he defeated the named monster Lu. Moving, he was also subjugated. Despite getting a bonus, Kyudo was so exhausted and dizzy that he collapsed and lost consciousness. Some time later, he woke up. He woke to find Momo and Ruby waiting for him and felt relieved to see them safe. Without them, it wouldn't have been surprising if that orc had killed him. He realized his wounds had all healed. He received 80 unread emails from Ikino's and read them all first and to Summer. After the battle, she came here, healed him with her skill, petted Momo until satisfied, left Momo and Ruby in charge, and departed. She left because she became nervous about talking directly to someone, and he did not realize she had social anxiety. He thanked her for saving him there, and she answered right away. She told him it would be a problem if he died before answering her, so Kyudo decided to check with Momo. Ask Ruby what they think, because he wants Ikino's to join their party now too. Without her help, he would have dead, and if she had not told him about the hardware store incident, he would not have noticed the high orc's weakness either, and he wanted to trust her and is genuinely friends with her now. Both Momo and Ruby agreed with him, so he should tell her the good news. She replied that she'll set a time for the meeting because she needs some time to get prepared. Realizing she needed time to collect herself because of social anxiety, Kyudo asked if tomorrow would be okay and she agreed. With that settled, he didn't want to stay any longer and decided to head to the shopping mall to test his skills. Now, because he has a lot to do, Kyudo is more determined than ever to survive in this world full of monsters. Nearby, a girl wielding a katana was cutting down goblins with. She was at ease, and she also had a dog named Blackie. She was also heading to the shopping mall as part of her exploration, which makes it quite interesting since Kyudo will be. Kyudo had already arrived at the shopping mall when an entire ruin appeared out of nowhere. Having defeated the High Orc, Kyudo went to the shopping mall, and the first thing he saw was a pile of corpses. He's now used to it because he handles stress well. Kyudo sat down to check his rewards after gaining 3 levels at once from defeating High Orc, noticed an entry under his unique skill still marked as under development, vaguely recalled hearing an announcement about a subjugation bonus reward that granted the skill, but there was no way to check now, so he just proceeded to allocate points for. With his assassin skill at maximum level, he can upgrade it and choose a third job for himself. He could upgrade to Terminator, Executioner, or Ninja, and choose a secondary job from Escape Artist, Smuggler, or Shadow User. Clearly, Kyudo figures Ninja is a meme job, but if it has the same skills as in the manga and games, it could be a strong job, possibly with cloning and transformation too. Knowing he'll face more enemies like that, Kyudo wanted a job suited to combat that would also complement his current fighting style. Deciding at last, he upgraded the assassin to a ninja. This gave him skills like ninjutsu, toss, 5 senses enhancement, odorless, silent action, and suppression, and similar skills merged into a single superior skill. Ninjutsu turned out exactly as he wanted, giving Kyudo more countermeasures against orcs and shadow wolves, and he was now deciding on his third job. She came out and showed him a shadow for some reason, indicating she wanted him to choose a shadow user. Earlier, Kyudo had been thinking of a monster master, but Momo rejected that and vouched for a shadow yu. Kyudo thinks that since she said so, he would take a third job as a shadow user, which would grant him the ability to manipulate shadows. It was the same skill Momo used, and he couldn't deny it was powerful since he'd seen her use it so often. Next, he spent all his skill points and maxed out observation first to raise that skill. Kyudo acquired the skill prediction, and his physical enhancement was upgraded, adding +5 to all his stats after a bit more fiddling with the. After finalizing all his stats and skills, his body now brims with power. About to give the High Orc's magic stone to Momo, he noticed its name was Leuven, confirming he had heard right that it was a named monster. Later, he fed the magic stone to Momo anyway. He followed the way, then tested his new skills, and after some trials, Kyudo found the ninjutsu impressive and sure to be useful in a fight, so he wanted to explore other areas of the U. He went to a shopping mall to check for usable items. Most of the food was already spoiled, but he didn't think monsters had eaten it. He wonders whether monsters see humans as food or have other reasons for hunting them, and figures they must have motives like leveling. Kyudo found preserved food and water, stored them, and later discovered a couple of survival books. Grateful to find such a vast source of information, he knew it could be vital to their survival. He stored all the. That should be enough books for now. Kyudo then faced a huge reaction outside the shopping mall. Deciding to investigate, he discovered a new monster species called the undead, and they don't seem very strong, so they'd be ideal targets for testing his new skills. Using his shadow powers, he attacked the monsters. Now that he's using it himself to restrain monst, Kyudo is thrilled to see firsthand how useful it is to control shadows. Next, he asked Momo to use her new skills to help. She forged a hammer of shadow to crush the undead. After gaining experience points, he learned more about Momo's new skills. Now it's time to practice close combat, so he takes out more of them with a knife, leaving 3 more too. Noticing the undead had their magic stones exposed, Kyudo considered ripping them out. He reached in and grabbed one, killing the monster immediately. Unlike other monsters, their bodies did not disappear. He can also store them in the item box, though he doesn't see any use for them. He can't sense any other monsters right now, so it should be safe enough to rest here for the night. Kyudo found a good spot with a single entrance. He used Ruby as a bed and lay down to sleep soundly. After saying good night to both of them, he fell asleep. Someone wondered what Ikanos might be doing now. Meanwhile, Ikanos was troubled in her stomach. Her stomach churned at the thought of tomorrow. She worried he'd laugh at her or even hate her when they met, since she hadn't met anyone in a year. She hadn't had any trouble when he passed out, but now she had to get past this so she could stand by his side, pet Momo, and see that he was refreshed. She resolved to do her best and rest for the day. The next day, 4 days have passed, since the world was overrun by monsters. Kyudo woke up with his companions Momo and Ruby. About to head out to meet his new party member Ikanos, he still felt nervous. Suddenly, an earthquake shook them all. He noticed a ruined building had suddenly appeared in the middle of the mall. He didn't feel any danger from it, still sketchy. Hesitating to leave, he realized the place had appeared suddenly like the monsters, so it might hold clues about this world, and since he still had time before meeting Ikanos, he decided to check the ruins. Momo and Ruby accompanied him. Kyudo climbed onto the roof. They reached a mysterious room. Moving with his shadow expanded, he could sense traps before running into them. To them, he finally found a mysterious stone pill. He found writing on the pillar in an unknown language, and because the symbols were worn, he can't read them. Either way, he put it in the item box for later, and to his surprise it worked, so he relaxed knowing he could research it when he had time. Although the pillar was stored, the list named it only Stone Pillar. Kyudo expected the name to reveal something about it, but he continued deeper into the ruins. Deep below, he found a treasure chest, set in the center of what seemed to be an awl. Kyudo approached the treasure chest cautiously, since a chest appearing suddenly on a suspicious altar might be another mimic. It might be a real treasure. Kyudo used Shadow skill carefully to open the chest. Nothing happened, so it should be safe to check what's inside. Finding a real treasure chest leaves him in disbelief. The excitement was too much to contain. Momo brought him to his senses, and Kyudo checked the treasure chest. It turned out to be a treasure map, but after he picked up the paper, he couldn't read any of the letters on it. The chest vanished, and Kyudo put the page away, hoping its name would reveal something about it. Using it didn't help much because it only said, a parchment. Kyudo hasn't understood much yet, but he figures he can decode it once he gains some new skills. With nothing else worth noting, he decided to leave. The more he tries to understand, the more mysterious the world seems. It's like a game and he still doesn't know much about this world, so he used the scan skill and got 2 reactions, one from a person and one from an animal. It occurred to him they had waited until the orcs left, and when he crept closer, he saw a girl carrying a katana. A black dog followed her. It looked like the girl was browsing the store. She hadn't expected it to be so badly damaged. Kyudo has a sense of déjà vu and thinks he may have seen that girl before. He cannot remember exactly where. He suddenly remembered his first year of high school when a rundown dojo stood in the neighborhood. This girl reminded him of the little girl he had met earlier. Assuming he's right, her name was Katsuragi Seaka. Hearing her name, the girl turned back, and Kyudo hadn't meant to say it aloud. She demanded whoever it was come out and show themselves, and Kyudo knew he'd made a mistake because trying to escape would only make things worse. He revealed himself and told her he hadn't meant to hurt her. Seaka studied Kyudo Kazuto's face for a moment. Then he remembered he was Kazu. Kyudo figures if she called him that name, it confirms she's really Seaka, and he calls her Seiya. She burst into tears when she met someone she'd been close to, and ran up to hug him to show how glad she was he was alive. Kyudo hadn't known she was so attached to him, and the black dog seemed puzzled by the sight as well. He asked if she felt better now. She nods, and Kyudo says it's been a long time since they last met, and he's very glad to see her. Still, he wanted to know why she was here, and what the story was behind that sword and dog. Seaka explained that 4 days ago monsters suddenly chased her on her way home. Arriving home, she found monsters had already ransacked the place, so she panicked and hid in a closet in the dojo. There she was ambushed by a goblin and chose to use her grandfather's katana. To save her life, she killed that goblin, and afterwards she leveled up and gained a new skill. Since then, she's been searching for her mother and grandfather, but monsters keep appearing one after another, making it hard to find them, and everywhere she looks there are only corpses on the ground. Kyudo understood how hard that must have been for her. He tried to come. After comforting her, he asked about the dog, and she said the dog's name is Blackie, and that she got him as a pet after Kyudo moved away from his old neighborhood. She asked whether Blackie was cute. He could also use skills to fight monsters. Kyudo bluntly admitted it was cool, but he wanted her to know she shouldn't share such important information so easily. Knowing she had probably told him because she trusted him, he introduced her to Momo, who stepped out of Kyudo's shadow, and Seaka was excited when she saw Momo appear. Introducing her to Seaka, he said she could use her skills too. Seaka greeted him nervously as if she had questions, but when he asked about it, she said she was just surprised to meet another doll. She's also incredibly cute, and Kyudo can't deny it. Momo is the cutest thing in the world, and he knows it, so Seaka must have seen that at first glance. Meanwhile, Blackie appeared to be low. His gaze stayed fixed on Momo. He wanted to be friends with her, so he began jumping around her and wagging his tail. She rejected him right away. Kyudo told Momo not to act like that and to say hello, while Seaka laughed at how quickly Blackie was rejected. After talking for a while, Kyudo learned that Seaka is staying at school and asked if he wanted to join her. She said the student council president was the one running things and is an incredibly good person. Kyudo decided that if this person really was an outstanding leader like Nishino, he should meet them sometime. For now, he wanted time to think, and although Seaka wanted him to come, Kyudo said he had many things to handle and planned to meet Ikenos because he was forming a party with her and did not want to decide without her input. He told Seaka not to worry as he and Momo could look after themselves, and when Seaka offered to go with him, he turned her down right. She tried to convince him she was actually quite strong and could be useful, but Kyudo told her it had nothing to do with strength. He can't tell her he's rejecting her now because Ikenos, a key member of his party, has social anxiety and needed time just to prepare to meet him. Including anyone else would be impossible unless she has a much longer time to get ready. Unhappy with his answer, Seaka asked him to promise he'd come to school once he finished what he was doing. By now, she would be waiting for him. Kyudo couldn't refuse her request, so he agreed, and Seaka left for the school to wait for him there soon. Relieved to have met Seaka, Kyudo figured she could handle getting back since she had come alone, so he decided to go and meet with each. Without his knowledge, Ikenos had been watching him through the scope. Devastation washes over her as the question roaring in her mind demands to know who that girl was. Kyudo headed to the location and got an email from her saying she was at the entrance, but he couldn't see her ahead. He then received another email saying she would deactivate her skills in a second after she. Kyudo noticed Ikenos sitting at the entrance, so she stood to introduce herself since it was their first in-person meeting. She said she looked forward to working with him, and he properly introduced himself and Momo and Ruby. When he asked Ikenos what skill she had been using, she said it was perception jamming, a skill she got from her job as a shut-in, and it has several limitations, but while using it others cannot perceive her. Kyudo thought that was a handy skill for a shut-in. Ikenos then asked if anything was wrong with it. Kyudo said it wasn't that, but he wondered why she hadn't looked at him during their conversation, and they both thought about it a lot, but social anxiety made it embarrassing for her, so bad she felt like throwing up when talking to new people, and that made her doubt whether she could really handle forming a party with someone else. If needed, she can just communicate by email, so they do not have to meet in person. Kyudo had hoped it wouldn't be that way. In that case, Momo was just as confused. Ikenos told him she would work on herself and wanted to move forward together, and Kyudo got a message saying she wanted to be friends, but she still wouldn't look at him, so for a moment his resolve wavered. He agreed to her request and formed a party with her, and to his surprise, she was level 20. She was 4 levels above Kyudo, and he did not know how she had reached that rank, so he asked her directly. The question surprised her because she had been about to ask Kyudo about the girl from before, but spoke too quietly, and her anxiety made her throw up. That's when Kyudo realized she wasn't joking and had truly reached her limit. She threw up all over him. Ikenos sincerely apologized to him for it, and he said it was no problem. In reality, he wanted to cry because his meeting with Ikenos went much stranger than he had expected. Even after reaching safety, Ikenos kept apologizing to him. He told her it was fine and she could forget it. Kyudo did not want to get upset over something so small now that they were party members, and he was glad Ruby had eaten all that vomit. He was cleaner than ever, and each nose had a sorry side to her. She admits she does not know what to do in times like these. Kyudo also struggles in situations like this. She had been expecting him to say some dreamy line from those fairy tale games. Kyudo told her to forget the whole incident. Ikenos cheered up right away. She suggested they go hunting, and Kyudo figured she enjoyed hunting monsters in real life as much as she did in games, and even Momo seemed to be on her side. She gave him puppy dog eyes to persuade him. Kyudo relented, but first he suggested they tell each other more about their skills and jobs, and Ikenos thought that was fair. That was enough, but as she tried to speak, she seemed to want to do something else even more than that. She finally gave in to her urge to pet Mo. It calmed her heart, she admitted, Kyudo wanted to pet Momo too, but she beat him to it. After that, she told him about her second job as a sniper, and when Kyudo asked why she picked a meme job like shut-in, she said she didn't think any of it was real and just treated it casually, like playing a game in a dream. She explained everything from when she took the shut-in job, which gave her skills like perception, jamming, and ga. Later she received the sniper skill and a sniper set, and started killing monsters with the sniper while thinking she was still dreaming. And she also had a skill called bullet production that let her make bullets by spending mana points that recovered on their own over time. And she kept killing monsters like it was a game until she realized it was real, after which she vomited repeatedly until she fully accepted reality. She thought about what she needed to survive, and while leveling up, decided to look for people who could support her. That's her whole story. Kyudo could see she had a rough time, so he asked whether it was wise to reveal her jobs and skills so easily, and she said it would not be a problem because she trusted him and Momo. Intending to use his first name, Kazuto, she instead used only his last name, Ku. Seeing her make an effort to communicate made him happy, and he thanked her for trusting him. Silence settled between them, and Kyudo was about to ask her something. Unexpectedly, he felt something and told her they should put the discussion on hold for now, because he felt a pack of shadow wolves closing in on them. It would be better for them to leave. Kyudo watched the shadow wolves move with keen focus. He kept asking himself if he had made a mistake that let them find him, thinking it might be because he killed a shadow wolf 2 days ago or because they were friends with the one he ran over. Either way, he alerted everyone. They were forced into close contact because the situation was urgent, so he carried her on his back to move immediately, and he apologized for the suddenness while she understands it was necessary and faster, but still finds the closeness hard to accept. Kyudo carried her properly. The shadow coiled around her sniper so neither she nor the weapon would fall. Kyudo tried to put her gun in an item box, but it wouldn't work, probably because it belonged to someone else. The shadow wolves kept closing in on them, and he could sense them from several directions, so he was unlikely to outrun them. He told Ikenos they'd have to confront them right here, so he stopped at the shopping mall, which looked like a good place for a fight, and she asked him if he was sure. Once he agrees to that, it was as if she switched her whole aura into hunting mode. She asked Kyudo to take her to the roof using the shadow skill, since her abilities were best for aiming and shooting from rooftops. Kyudo agreed. He also gave her a cap made from a piece of Ruby's body with the mimic skill and wanted her to keep it on because it could be useful. Ikenos listened and was lifted to the rooftop once she got her spot. Kyudo was now ready to battle the shadow wolves. He opened with a combined attack using Momo's and his shadow manipulation skills. Their actions left the shadow wolves confused. They disabled the engine, then used their usual tactic of dropping heavy cars on them. Kyudo earned extra experience points by defeating some of them before attacking. After that, he quickly covered his ears and told Momo to use the roar skill she had recently learned. Her powerful roar was enough to intimidate the shadow wolves. She had kept it at the High Orc's magic stone ever since. Now the shadow wolves could not move from the Ikenos take this chance to shoot each of them in the head and kill them with a single shot. Kyudo was impressed by her first active role in their battle. Thanks to the cap Ruby made, she seemed fine despite Momo's roar. Confident they could take out the final shadow wolves easily, he found things did not go as planned when he sensed something dangerous. He quickly ran off from the spot where he'd been standing. From that spot came something dark, not just a shadow, and Kyudo wondered what the hell that thing was. Away from that dark map, another shadow wolf appeared, and this one looked bigger than any other shadow wolf That shadow wolf's heavy, intimidating aura means it must be higher ranked than the others. He named it Dark Wolf. Kyudo realized the Dark Wolf had not shown itself right away, meaning it must have been watching his skills while he fought the other shadow wolves. It appears to have higher intelligence like that. The fact he met another dangerous monster the very next day is troubling. Thanks to Momo and Ikenos, Kyudo still had powers he hadn't used in the battle. He was still saving his secret weapon for later. At the other end, the Dark Wolf scattered dark matter aimed at Kyudo. With increased speed, he dodged it and used heavy item drops as feints. The Dark Wolf was calmly dodging the drops. What happened next shocked him, as the items were pulled into the dark matter from that wolf. Kyudo realized the darkness operated completely differently from his and Momo's shadow manipulation. It turned out the things could pull in objects, and Kyudo wanted those items back. The dark matter had already swallowed it, and he could not get it back, so Kyudo knew he had to act quickly. Act quickly before engaging in close-range combat. He asked Momo to roar again to catch the dark wolf off guard. The dark wolf cloaked itself in darkness to block the roar's effect and survived, making the roar useless. Kyudo had expected this and rushed in close to the dark wolf, using its earlier blocked vision to buy time. The dark wolf was startled by. Kyudo avoided detection by that thing by using other objects sucked into the darkness as footholds. He had to land a hit in the next few seconds. The dark wolf proved faster than he expected, as it and sought crushing praise through darkness. Pain shot through Kyudo as the dark wolf crushed his body. In the next moment, his body vanished. Its strange behavior startled the dark wolf and left it confused. Kyudo figures the thing must have been surprised because it couldn't understand what had just happened. Using his new ninjutsu shadow clone, Kyudo created a clone to make the dark wolf focus only on the coins, and he can make about 3 clones, each consuming 3. Copying his physical abilities could be a powerful technique when used with the right timing and clever planning. Now Kyudo sent another clone to charge into the dark. The wolf does this so he doesn't have to risk anything, since only the clone will be attacked. The dark wolf crushed his own clone. He then threw more knives at the dark wolf. The dark wolf hid its body in darkness, but that blocked its vision and allowed Momo. She roared again to disrupt the dark wolf's movement. Kyudo devised this clever tactic using their new skills, and amid the confusion. Then the dark wolf was shot. Filmed by Akinos. Kyudo is certain this dark wolf, though higher ranked, has the same weakness as a shadow wolf. Its endurance is weak. That doesn't mean he can be careless, and he needs to take it down with the next attack. The dark wolf gathered the scattered darkness and began spreading it again in the same place. Kyudo sensed the danger and was right. The dark wolf threw out everything it had absorbed into the darkness earlier and aimed straight at our boy.